Now that we're happy with our CameraMatch view, let's render it. With the CameraMatch object selected, let's look at the final background render modes available in the Object Info palette. In here we can use the current render mode that's set for that viewport, or we can set one up, and I typically choose one I want to use. Let's try OpenGL first to get a quick preview. And you can also set a foreground render. So let's just try OpenGL, and that's what it looks like. And okay, so let's say we wanted to do a hidden line on top of that. Let's render it again. And there's that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and choose none again for the foreground, and let's keep it OpenGL for now. And I'm going to exit out of the viewport. And now we have done everything with the existing model, but that's not what we want in our rendering. So we want to go ahead and turn off the existing. So we'll go through the layers and turn that off. And let's turn our two new layers on. And we can update it from here if we'd like. Okay, so there's the new stuff. We can change the render mode to something else if we'd like. I'll go ahead and set it to a custom RenderWorks setting. Let's try rendering it like that. Okay, and I'm going to exit out. And let's take a look at some other things we can do. One thing that can really help, I did have one light in a design layer that gave me some directional lighting. But what I also typically do is give it at least one bounce of indirect lighting. That gives it much more realistic lighting. And I also typically turn off ambient, and then I use lighting from a background. And I choose an HDRI white background. It's one of the defaults from Vectorworks. This just gives a good all-around general lighting, and it basically replaces the ambient with something much more realistic. Okay, so let's click OK. I'm going to zoom into this a little and we'll update it. Okay, so there's some better lighting. Okay, now it is a little grainy. It's not as sharp as we would like, and that's because the sheet layer DPI has not been set up. I'm going to go back into the annotations of this viewport, and CameraMatch actually has a recommended DPI setting, and that is strictly based on the resolution of the image and the size of the image. So according to this information, this photograph right now is showing at 178 DPI. So in this case, I would recommend going to at least that DPI. And in general, I mostly try to stick to that DPI because of the retouching tools in CameraMatch. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set that to 178. And let's update that one more time. There, that's a little better. Now, as you can see, there's quite a bit of new stuff that's really in the way of the existing structure. All these columns are supposed to be outside of this new stuff. So we need to get into retouching tools, and that's the next step for CameraMatch.